Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to dive deep into the future of event and conference team communication. I'm thrilled to introduce Seth Kenvin of Their App. Their App is an ingenious solution designed to bring event profs together, streamline on-site communications, event management, and coordination, no matter where team members are located. Seth is the visionary behind this transformative tool. He's an innovator, thought leader, he recognized the growing challenges faced by mobile and distributed event teams, and he actually did something about it. Seth, welcome to Tech Unleashed.
Thanks, Keith. Always great to spend time with you.
I know, right? And I will let everyone know before we dive in. I actually have a podcast episode waiting with Seth and a demo, and it'll get there. We'll get there. But I'm really excited to have you here today because I think that, in these 20 minutes, this is actually a great chance for meeting and event planners, not only here in the States, but a large portion of this audience is going to be over in Europe, for them actually to learn about Their App and what's going on.
Appreciate it. And so we're looking at my screen, I believe, correct? So what you see here is actually our latest. This is version 1.11 of our software. And this is a module that you and I have spoken about called the board. So as in bulletin board. I think this really crystallizes the value proposition of what we provide. So the scenario here is that this is a company called Solve. They're exhibiting at an event of this association, and it's at Caesar's Palace. And here I'm playing basically the role of the project manager. And so I'm creating a page with contents from their .app, and you'll see the underlying app in a moment. This is our 10th module, but this module really ties together the information across the full scope of our product functionality. So I'm laying out a page. I want to produce in a way that's going to get people to buy into the project and be enthusiastic and confident in my production efforts. So I can do some page layout, headline, make a nice banner image. I can put in various formattings of text and messaging, and then I can take details and pull the most important ones up to the top. So these icons indicate our overall modules. We have a team icon in which I'm putting right at the top of my board page, making myself accessible. If anybody needs to reach me, they can click through to here and see my contact information. If I'm sharing my location, they'll be able to see that. I'm sure we'll get into more of that in a moment. They can message me within the app. And then I posted a video welcome message again to just indicate the production polish involved in our effort and give everyone confidence that this is going to be a great event. And then I put in the essential information like Caesar's Palace is where we're staying. So that's from our places module. You'll see all these modules momentarily. Some imagery that shows how great our trade show booth is going to look. And down at the bottom, I put in some more headline and copy about the fact that this company is going to have a happy hour the next day. And here's the appointment for that. If you should be inviting people, then here's the link to the Eventbrite page with the invitation. If you need to see if your client RSVP'd, here's a link through our files module. So these are all our modules: files module, web module, events is our calendar module. There's a task module. And all of these items, again, I can click through to see in full, or I can even act on them within the board if it's a simple action, or actually I can click this icon and then I go to the corresponding module. So again, this is the full set of our modules, and I'll start to walk through them in a moment. But I guess I'll take a breath and see if there's anything you wanted to cover about what we just looked at.
Well, it's one of those things, right, where I get really excited about tech like this for a lot of reasons. But the number one reason is, we have a very large client that has a citywide every year, right? And they have a lot of on-site staff, paid staff that are there. They also have a lot of contractors like myself that come in and work alongside them for this event. But they also actually have a lot of different volunteers. And the volunteers are segmented into their own little groups. Mm-hmm. And what you find is all of this data that you now have contained within Their App actually, for that group, is spread out over a lot of different communication and other tools and other platforms. So for example, the in-house team, they all use Teams, Microsoft. when we're communicating with them, many times it's WhatsApp. The volunteers, because they come from many different countries, a lot of them will also use WhatsApp, while the North American volunteers might use text messaging.
Right.
So this is actually, so I love the fact that we're able to pull all of those groups together into one place, because you have a record of everything that happened. But it's also easier to explain to whatever group it is what they need to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and we try to be, again, particularly considerate of the circumstance of that happening where the activity is on their feet, right? Like you and I are, you're in a rare day at your home office right now. We're communicating online, and basically we have all of our attention to give to the screen in front of us. When you're working on location, it's important to be engaged in the place you're in, engaged with the live people. Those volunteers are maybe people you're just meeting, and you're, sizing up how you're going to work together with each other. Your attention should be on each other. All this siloing, whether it's siloing of different people using different chat apps like you cited, or just the fact that our coordination involves access to certain reading materials, it involves consulting our schedule, it involves making sure that our to-do list all gets checked off. Those themselves tend to be siloed across different apps. We have our chat app and our task management app and our calendaring app. And so we try to, break those silos down and be a resource for all those things. As you can see on my screen here, where there are different module types, your calendar is going to be in the events module that we're looking at now, and file shared within the team is going to be in that module. And, we have a task checklist capability as well. But even here, right, these are sort of our silos. So that's really what we think is the leveling up of the board, is instead of someone having to join a project and realize, okay, there's 7 files for me to look at and 32 appointments that I should check out. We're allowing the project manager to put what's most important at the top of the page, so that those volunteers don't have to spelunk through the whole project. They can look over the top few things here and get the information and action capabilities they need, and value wise, again, get their attention back on the event that they're producing live, and do a great job there with just the support they need from technology.
Yeah, and one of the things that I loved, the last time that we were talking about this was a thing like a video, right? Typically when you get on site for, train volunteers or whoever it is, you've got to train 10 people, and then there's the 2 people that were late, so you've got to go over and you've now got to talk to them. Where you can actually put videos in here, right? And say, okay, volunteers, before we do anything, watch this video. Exactly. Exactly.
So yeah, I mean, basically you can put in any media type, you can put in links out to web pages or to cloud files, you can upload files directly. We integrate with calendar programs so that appointments can come into the system. Again, to avail people's attention to focus on where they are and what they're doing. We basically make the project building process as streamlined as possible as well, and most especially the product usage process. As I click around these modules, one thing you may notice is that the front pages of the modules, here's clicking into an actual item, but if I look at the front page of the Places module, the layout of it is roughly the same sort of organizational scheme and scale as what you see in pretty much all the other modules. But here on the task module, it's also contextual. So I see when something's due as sort of the thumbnail space on the left, important information, and my action item over on the right is to check off the task. Whereas, again, in the files module, it's, a thumbnail of the front page of the particular document that shows in this space, and my option is to download it. So with that consistency, I mean, for one thing, hopefully that helps the product be, more accessible, and people get productive in it faster and don't have to spend their time figuring out our software, but just use it as they wish, and again, get their attention back on site. And then also this, kind of standardization, lets us do some pretty interesting new things we've been doing, one of which you just saw, in the board, I can lay out these items of these different module types, and they kind of lay out the same way. And then also in chats, if I go into this particular chat, we can write text messages. So let's say that So I'm just answering this question that was asked if this task is done yet. Someone chatted me a task, and I can check off that task from within the chat. Technically, like we're now allowing for this sort of like fluidity where the modules can be mixed and matched with each other. Or if I go into this calendar appointment and I see that it involves John, I can go to John's page. If I see John has this task assigned, I can go to that task page. And if that task were at a place, I'd be able to go from here to the place page. So, like really lightweight versions of presenting information regarding what people have to know about for the project, the execution they have to do, and how they communicate within their team. Doing it like with an emphasis on simplicity and it being fluid together.
Yeah, and it's funny whenever I look at it, I always, I have certain of my events that actually pop into my head when I'm thinking about this, and with the tasks and everything, we have someone on our team. Her name is Tiffany. If she has signage duty, right, and she's out placing signs, that can be in the calendar, right? It can say go, or as a task, right? It can say Tiffany, place signs out, boom, boom, boom. Then she can actually check it off, and the whole team is going to know that has been completed, right? And as a planner, right. I'm thinking of the Chicago Marriott where the one event is in my head. I'll be up on the 7th floor or down on the 4th floor, and signage is getting placed out on the 5th floor. Well, I'm not going to have to stop at the fifth floor because I know that it's been checked off and it's been done. If Tiffany wouldn't do this, but I know a lot of people that would, where they'll check it off even though it's not complete. If somebody says, "Hey, we don't see signage," then I could just hit it up with a text message, right? I can go, "Hey, did those really get placed out?"
I'll show you something else you can do actually, like with your Tiffany hypothetical. So let's say it's not checked off, and you're getting nervous, and you know that her prior engagement was, somewhere a mile or so away from wherever this item was to get done. And before you message her, maybe you already set this up, but I'm going to go to our location sharing module, and I'm logged in here as John, and I'm going to say to Seth, I'm logged in as Seth on my phone. Why don't you show me where you are for the next hour? So now I get a notification of that location sharing request, and I'm going to go ahead and approve of it. And John should be able to see me on the map.
And while you're doing, I was going to say, while you're doing that, this one is actually one. There are so many use cases for this particular module. Yes, right. If Tiffany or whoever is coming from another venue to do this job, right, I can go in there and see, has she even left that venue? But also,
or you can be like, oh, she needs to get that task done for me, but I see she's a block away. I realize she's on her way. I don't need to bother her. I don't have to focus my attention on this anymore. I'll just take a note to look in a few minutes and confirm that the task is checked off.
Yeah. And, or even with incentive travel programs, right? We have a client that does, a lot of golf outings, and they'll go on other excursions, scuba diving or snorkeling or whatever it happens to be. If you have a staff member with each of those groups, that is a great way to know where they are, right? So for example, if you have a large golf outing, for example, and then the bus is going to bring, 2 buses are going to bring everybody back, and they're going to walk right into a reception or something along those lines, exactly how long you have because your person has their app and they're actually on that lead bus coming back. You're going to know when they're going to be pulling in. And that is huge, huge.
I'm sure you know better than I do. With a lot of scar tissue.
Well, it's funny, right? Because, you always get, people out there texting you from the bus, hey, we're 5 minutes out, but then they get stuck in traffic, right? And all of a sudden 5 minutes becomes 15 minutes and you're like, where the hell are they? Right. There's some server standing there with champagne on a tray. And you're like, yeah, put your arm down. They're going to be a while.
So, by the way, while I have this up, I mean, as useful as this can be, it's also something about which people may have understandable sensitivities. We build in privacy in multiple ways. It includes the fact that a location share, like you see here from 9/23 to 10/23, it has to have a start and end. It can't be longer than 7 days. I also have multiple pause switches on screen where if I want John not to see where I am anymore, I can disappear from his view. Then unpause to reappear. So I'd like to show you some of our current emphasis, and it includes the board as part of this theme. But basically, we think it's important for us to develop as our champions, maybe the Keith Johnsons of the world, or maybe like, the people that bring you into projects, but, who's really binding the information together. And also that person is on stage, and producing for the benefit of their constituents, their clients, their teammates, whatever the circumstance may be. So that includes, the board being an area in which you have these kind of page layout capabilities, and you can build a pretty nice and elegant page. Hopefully the app itself comes across as polished and professional. But some of the extensions that we've made recently, and then we're making the short term. First of all, we've kind of supercharged our media module. Actually, I made a video for you of this a couple of weeks ago. So this is our media module. It takes photos and videos. This is a giant game that I went to. If I click on this thumbnail, I see it in this basically present mode with a nice background. There's some animation as the metadata fades away. I have navigation controls. I can swipe to navigate as well. And I have this play button. And if I click that, I'm actually going to get a carousel effect around the media in the project. So, we're just thinking about what are ways that we can just make this a higher polish environment for, really high quality production efforts to come through to, whoever should be impressed by that.
Well, and a picture is worth 1,000 words, right? And we go back to Tiffany and that signage. Poor Tiffany, if you're watching this, know that I am not picking on you. It's just the first name that came to mind. They can take the picture of the signage, right, and say, hey, yeah, that was done. Here's the image, right? You can also have, if you're not able to be in a particular room, you can get event pictures, right? Somebody can take some pictures of the crowd and what's going on, or those things. So the media carousel, goes two ways, right? It's great for us to share with teammates and things like that, but it's also great for the team to share back with us, what they're seeing. And it can be, yeah, sure, it can be used for setup, but it could also be used for the finished product, just to check out the event.
Right. And one more piece I want to show you, and this is a preview, but these are some of our design files. And again, on this theme of kind of higher polished production for the audience of your teammates. This is a design direction we're going in the really short term. So if I go back to our app, basically we've kind of cleared up this real estate here, as well as this space around the navigation dropdown. And within those white spaces, we're going to let you now upload a project logo or an account logo. Maybe, it could be the logo of the trade show you're at, or of your client company, or of the product that's being launched. And then you can pair that with a theme color, including some tech tools where we can pull theme colors from the logo you upload. And then we have this design styling that appears throughout the app on all the navigation bars, where you can really set the theme of the experience within the app as an extension of your live event production. And I'll quickly just go through a preview of the next module we're going to introduce later this year. It's going to be a home module. So it'll basically be somewhere that takes the main project information and presents it. For example, a project can have a cover image or a description. So if those kinds of metadata are there, it'll fill that in on the top. On the bottom, it provides basically a navigation hub for the whole team to get a sense of what modules are in this project. What do those modules do? There's just, a dozen or so words on each one, and also a brief kind of dashboard statement of what's the state of that module within that project. And for that matter, all these plus buttons over on the right, makes this a single page to kind of build out your project. Add a calendar appointment, add another one, add a file. And then in the middle of it, basically you can build a board. So you can pin the most important items. So you could pin a board here on the home module. So that is some of what's coming up. By the way, there's on map functionality I don't think we got into, but if I click on an item on the map, I can see the data related to that item. So here's the event, data. If I want to navigate to it, I can get directions to get to from one place in my project to another place in my project. Hands it off.
Which that's huge, right? So, for a lot of events, particularly, some of those incentive travel trips or larger conventions or conferences, that are happening in multiple places within a city. Just having the address of everything super handy like that is amazing, right? It really is. And typically those things are held within a Google Doc or a Word doc or an Excel file, or, you know, if you get, you know, some of the more robust actual event management tools, there might be, you know, locations within there. But when you're talking about all those volunteers and all of those people, this is absolutely positively the easiest way for everybody to keep in communication and keep everything within one silo.
Agreed.
Boom. And that brings us up to, we are at the end of the 20 for this one. So Seth, thank you. I hope that everyone does take the opportunity to go out and check out their .app, and that's actually the URL. It's just their.app.
Their .app, that's the product, that's the URL. And, you know, we'd love to work with you to keep your project team informed, in touch, and, you know, on track with execution.
Thank you, sir. And know that at some point in the near future, I will get our episode finally posted.